Hello, I'm Pat Connor with Vicoding University, training humans to train themselves. And today we're going to be talking about, your hopes and prayers for the new year. Okay. Well, really, what we're going to be talking about now is about how we sort of seem to end up thinking we already know who we are. And we start hoping, I hope things are better this year. And we start praying, maybe, please make it better this year. Or then we start begging, please. Because we seem to think that we know who we are. That we know our limits. We know we can do this. We know we can do that. And we can't do this and we can't do that. And we're sort of fixed. We're stuck. And we go, oh man, I hope the world gets better this year. And we start praying, please. And what I want you to start saying is maybe you don't know who you are, and maybe you don't know who you can become. Because one of the things that the challenges is that we have such a misconception about training. When we think of training, we always think of force, right? One of the things, I always used to beg for is for someone to force me to be brave, someone to force me to go out there and do things, someone to force me to become better at this, or to spend the time doing that, or whatever. And I just wanted somebody to force me, because it's like, if they say force me, then I would do it. Okay, but I couldn't make myself do it. Okay, so one of this concept of force, it doesn't work. Okay, it's not part of training, because we've got to go back to the dieters. Even if somebody gets themselves or forces themselves to do something, sure, they get the result, but it's short term. It's one time. It's that's the way it is, okay? And well, maybe that's all I can ever do. No, it's not, okay? But you got to use the right training. So let's get into what is training. So the idea of force doesn't work. So let's do that dieter thing. So here, a dieter reads all the book and has all the knowledge about how to make himself thin. Okay, then he forces himself to do it, and he becomes thin. But as soon as he lets go of the force, he gains all his weight back, and usually a little bit more, because his automatic, that's who we are. We're this automatic. So we got to train that automatic, that creature of habit that we are, to do the things it needs to do to maintain who we are just naturally. So we want to naturally become the person we were meant to be. And the way we do that is through training, but not through force. Force is not training. So what is training then? Okay, so training, there's actually 5 steps, and we're going to go through that training. But one of the trainings is that and we're going to sort of use well, let's do the 5 steps first. First, the 5 steps first. One is knowledge. You got to know what to do. Okay, so the dieter is right on. But you don't want to force yourself. See, the next thing you got to do is you just got to start developing pictures in your mind that convince you that you see and you make such that you want to do things that you need to do, that you like to do, that you love to do them, actually, that you're excited about, that these are just really good things to do. Okay, it can't be, I hate doing sit-ups. Oh, no. Or society said, it's not good to do this, or not good to do that, or whatever your culture says. I don't know what it is, but you've been trained by your outside world, and you got to learn to start training yourself to do the things that you need to do to accomplish what you need in life. Okay, and if you're looking for, when you look at force and you think, I can't do it, you start looking at tricks. You start looking at cheating. You start looking at hoping to be lucky, and none of that works. Okay, those are all short-term, one-time things that may or may not ever happen. So the key we want to look at is, what can we do so that we just get it happens over and over and over again, because that's who we are. Okay. Now there's a person that just loves to run, is always in shape. Okay. So if you love running, it's like, no problem. Okay. But if you don't love it, okay, now we're starting looking at, might have some challenges. If you love to read, you might, being smart is not a problem. You'll probably just be smart because you just love to do it. Okay. So we're going to talk about, how do you develop this, generate this love. So so the second step is seeing yourself loving to do it, then experiment and playing around with it until you actually do love to do it, and then practicing it so you love to do it, and then finally it just becomes somebody and who you are. Okay, now this is training a human is easy, because it's all about figuring out how to make something exciting to do that you really like to do. Okay, so we're going to first talk about something called the Eisenhower machine. Okay, and the reason I want to talk about the Eisenhower machine is because General Eisenhower was one of the Allied generals in World War II and later became President of the United States for the United States. Okay. I've got a phone call here disrupting me. Okay, excuse me, I apologize. Okay, so we're going to continue on here. So now, so President of the United States, the Eisenhower machine. Okay, so Eisenhower machine simply said plans are worthless. Okay. Plans are worthless? No. And he then continued to say, but planning is everything. So what does that mean? Well, so what he had his generals do is he had them look at one scenario. He said, well, what if this happens? What should we do? And they figured out a way to be successful there and win. Then he said, well, what happens if they do this? What should we do? And they looked at that scenario and they figured out how to be successful there. Well, what happens if this happens to us, like if ship sinks or whatever? What should we do then? How can we still be successful? What happens if this happens? And then he had them look at scenario after scenario after scenario. I mean, it was like, whoa, come on now. How many scenarios we gotta look at? And he looked at all these scenarios, and pretty soon these generals got really good at figuring out how to be successful in almost anything. Okay. Now, when the war now this is all in their heads. So when they actually were faced with it in the war, their mindset, oh, I can figure out how to be successful, you know. And they looked at the data, the situation, and they figured out a solution and found a way to be successful. And that is what we wanted to develop, is this little machine inside that says, I can figure out how to be successful. I can go through all the different scenarios to start within my head. I can do some strategizing and planning. I can get all the knowledge and facts up there, and now I can figure out, I can trust myself. I can count on myself. It's one of those things where you say, oh, yeah, I have confidence in who I am. You know, so it's like developing almost a talent for yourself, okay, by just going through this process. Because now you seem to me naturally have the ability to figure out ways to be successful in this area. And it all starts with doing it in your head, then playing around with it in the real world a little bit until you finally get it to work there, then start practicing those things at work until finally it just becomes something that is yours. But this whole time is you're enjoying, oh, I can do it this way. If this is going to, oh yeah, what if I do this? What if I, it gets exciting. So make it something that's rewarding to you. That got to see yourself as being successful and being rewarding to you. So those are the steps. So that's the Eisenhower machine. And I want to just look here real quick here, right? And we a lot of times people you can test, people that have this sort of concept is people that we say are confident, people that say that, oh, they're flying by the seat of their pants, they don't really know what they're doing, but they can figure it out and sort of come up with something. People that are in flows, a lot of times people say, or people in basketball, they're just good, they're in flow, they're skilled or whatever. Okay, those are all the people we're talking about. Okay, but that comes from a process of training themselves. It doesn't just happen out of thin air. No, you got to go through the process of doing the research, doing the data, figuring stuff out, strategizing, planning, seeing how you can do it. I mean, you've got to really get this, is that you look at the data and you go, well, I'm too tall, too tall. No, your height, how can you be successful still? Oh, well, how can you still build these? And you figure it out, and start. Now you start seeing whoever you are in whatever situation. I mean, we're done with these right answers we get in school, because the right answers, you may not fit. Okay, the right answer may not work. So right answers, don't be thinking right. There's lots of ways to do things. Okay, so right answers, get rid of those. Okay, you figure out what might work for you. Okay, strategize, figure it out in your head, then try it out, play around with it, and then practice it. And next thing you know, boom, you're gonna figure out what to do. Now, I want to take you through a little scenario here. I got a hip replacement, and one of the challenges was basically that I had to walk. Okay, but it was raining. So what am I going to do here? So when it wasn't raining, I took an umbrella and I started to walk. And I was sharing this with my wife. I started to walk, and then all of a sudden it started to rain. So I put up the umbrella. So it just started, it was like, boom, there you go. No rain. Continued to walk. And then it stopped raining. So I took down the umbrella. And then the sun came out. It was sort of a crazy day. And I actually got sort of hot. So I unzipped my jacket. And I continued to walk. Then the wind came up. And I was like, well, I'm getting cold. So I zipped up my jacket. And then I continued to walk. Then it started to rain. And I put up the umbrella. And I continued to walk. And the key is that I just continued to walk until I got my walking in. And it wasn't at all difficult. Now, I want to share with you also it's called Harold and the Purple Crayon. So check it out if you haven't at the library or someplace, wherever you can find it. But it's sort of the same sort of scenario where Harold with his purple crayon gets in all sorts of crazy situations, and all he does is figures out and draws something to make it so it works for him. So Harold gets in this wild and crazy sea, and he draws himself a boat. Okay? And all sorts of ways that he draws himself so that he can be successful. And so it's a kid's book, and he ends up going through all sorts of crazy little adventures or places or challenges, and finally he ends up finding his way back home. Okay, so Harold and the Purple Crayon. Now the key that I want you to get from this is, with these little Eisenhower machines and all these different areas that you're going to come into, you're going to study them, you're going to figure out in your mind ways to be successful by planning, strategizing, stuff like that, and then you're going to start having confidence, and then there's going to be little things you do, like zip up your jacket, put up they're not going to be big things. You want to take away this idea that, people are somehow miraculously crazy and do things that are impossible. I mean, it's just being successful is just continuing to walk, continuing to draw with your purple crayon, continue to do things to figure out how to be successful so you can go on to the next step and the next step, the next step, until finally you accomplish what you want to accomplish out of life. Okay? So don't make it complicated. Don't make it this little Eisenhower machine is like you just this little things that you're going to come up with in each little situation that you study and figure out and really learn to enjoy until you get in the flow of making it work, that you're going, wow, this is really great. I can make this happen. All right. Okay. Until finally you become the person that you want to become, the person that's going to take you to your dreams and goals. Okay. So you may think you know who you are, but you may not know who you are. You don't even know what amazing person you're going to become yet, and that's the exciting thing. Who are you going to become? That's sort of the whole gist of this is you're not fixed. You're not limited. You don't need to pray for the world or beg or anything like that or hope somebody's going to come save you. You don't need to do that. Okay? When it rains, put up your umbrella. When it gets hot, unzip your jacket. I mean, there's just little things like that, but keep yourself moving towards your goals. Do the little things that you need to do and keep yourself moving, becoming the person that you need to become to accomplish your goals and dreams. Okay, Pat Connor, Viconia University, training humans to train themselves.